Welcome to episode 2 of the Anxiety Blog series, or Innate Mental Health or Mental Well-Being. Let's talk about thoughts. Yes, they come back, yet a thing only comes back if it has gone. I recently spoke to my 86-year-old client about her reduced appetite. I asked her if she was ill or had recent infection, how her urine output was, or if she hadn't been moving her bowels regularly. She then continued, maybe I was just feeling down, and when you're alone, you are thinking of a lot of things, and most of the time, you don't really like them. At the height of my anxiety and panic, I think that I almost always had these thoughts about, and it can be graphic in my head, of me dropping my then newborn niece. I would really take them seriously, as if it were a sign from the universe that it will one day happen. Whenever I come near her, I have those visions, which terrified me. 2 years later, I still get those thoughts from time to time, whether we're watching Trash Truck on Netflix or she's doing some acrobatic stunts on my lap when she feels like it. However, it is now scarce, almost extinct, and no longer graphic. To spell it further, it no longer has a power over me. Or it never had to begin with. I just had an innocent misunderstanding about the nature of thoughts. Possible sources on why we take thoughts so seriously. One could be from elders, culture, beliefs, education. As we grow up, we are past beliefs and values that evolve into a set of core and deeply ingrained values because it is told to us or we hear it consistently from authorities in our lives, such as parents, elders, teachers, idols, people we admire, religious figures, and many others. Some of these values and beliefs are tested and solidified as we go through life, especially with experiences that involve heartbreak, betrayal, disappointment, rejection, and failure, among others, that sooner shape how we view ourselves in the world. Two, stories from other people or from movies, books, and videos. We may never notice, but aside from the reality that we face each day, we come across stories from other people or even fictional stories, from books to movies or other forms of media that change our perspective. It may leave us traumatized, inspired, or totally transform our lives for better or worse. I remember I saw a Filipino movie titled Rosario, loosely based on a true story. It follows the story of Rosario from a wealthy, sophisticated flapper mestiza to becoming poor and ending up having sex with her landlord to pay her debts. I was so infuriated and disgusted when I saw this movie. It angered me and made me nauseous to the point that it lingered for a while. I couldn't accept that her character with so much potential ended up like that. I didn't realize that it was just a story and that I made another one in my head. A story in a story. 3. Meaning making. Since the time of our forefathers, our ancestors, and even in the Bible, humans are inclined to assign meaning to every single thing to make sense of the experience. It has to make sense. Why? Exactly. We love the why question so much. I'm not saying that we should totally drop asking the question because it has led to the evolution of science or contributed to our own personal growth, for example. Yesterday, there was a scene between a mother and a daughter from the series I was watching, which I thought was a classic example of this. The mother confesses feelings of guilt for decades because of what she said to her deaf sister. Do not get pregnant ever, because what good can it do to your life with a deaf child? A few years later, the mother gave birth to twins, one of whom was deaf, and she believed that it meant she was being punished for what she did to her sister, and she carried that meaning making baggage for the rest of her life since then. When do we stop then? When it's no longer helpful. Stop the unhelpful train of thought on its tracks. there will be more trains coming. Always. The nature of thought. 1. Thought is a formless energy that always moves, no other way. Before entering into this little box on top of our shoulders, thought with a capital T is a formless energy, nothing more, nothing less. As soon as it enters our consciousness, it then takes form, like thoughts, images, sounds, sensations, and perhaps a few more. These, in combination with all the filters we use on our lenses, like the biases, beliefs, trauma, values, etc. Can you just imagine the kind of outcome it can produce? It's a distorted reality. Physics tells us that energy cannot be destroyed, it can only be transformed. We cannot in any way stop thoughts or thinking. They are just how they are designed. We can have fewer thoughts or lesser thinking, or even go into a no thought thinking zone where when we are in the flow, but it's not because of our own doing. We cannot think or do our way out of thinking. It's just more thinking. It doesn't make sense, does it? If you were to remember just one thing from this article, it is this. Thought is always moving and passing. Not a single thought gets stuck. And so you are only stuck as you think you are. Yes, they come back, yet a thing only comes back if it has gone. 2. Thought is neutral. People of all kinds have diverse thoughts. Even the kindest people you know may have the weirdest thoughts. I don't know if or how thoughts are assigned to enter into our person's consciousness, or if there is such a thing. With my limited human mind, who knows what kind of system is being operated on and how thoughts end up in each person's mind. Like, for example, the thought of going to a music fest sounds fun to my friend, but probably not for me. Therefore, there's nothing wrong with the idea of music festivals, which is neutral but becomes personal. We attach our respective judgment to it. And it becomes personal again when it's picked up by our personal mind. And lastly, thought has no power of its own, but it's a tool. It's just a vehicle which we can make anything out of. What powers the thought is the mind, the universal mind. You may want it called God, a higher being, or the universe. It exists everywhere, anywhere, and whenever. You and I carry this life force in us every single moment. It doesn't leave us, whether in our highs and lows, no exceptions. Somebody should have told us that we don't necessarily have to keep digging into why we are having such thoughts. This option is available to us. Somebody should have told us. In traditional psychology and counseling, it is a practice to keep recalling and digging into the childhood trauma, the worst day of your life, your first heartbreak, and other similar events in the past over and over again. Probably to find a sensible reason or an explanation why you're having such thoughts, why you are thinking and behaving in certain ways, and why you are in this state right now. But common sense tells me that yes, it makes sense to find the root cause to solve the problem permanently and not just a band-aid solution. For me, it reached a point where this exploration of the underlying nature of thoughts, the whys, why we have these thoughts, led me to read about quantum physics and black holes, which to this day still makes me laugh remembering those days when I nerded about it. Common sense and wisdom also tells me that yes, you can follow a train of thought, but you can hop off at any time if it's no longer helpful. And please don't go to the black hole because it's an endless digging, it's exhausting. One of the very first times I sought the service of a therapist, at every session, she keeps asking me about how the accident happened, and then we move to me telling stories of some of my childhood issues. And every time I spoke about whether the accident or stories growing up, I felt anxious and panicky. And then I would feel my symptoms creeping in. And that's the very last thing I wanted. I paid for a service, to get me relief from it. And then she told me that I had some unresolved internal issues that contribute to how I was approaching this scary territory of having severe anxiety and panic. Eventually, I stopped the therapy because it doesn't make sense to me to go back and forth to an event that brought me bad feelings and symptoms. Then I was told that I needed to process these bad feelings for me to feel better. I'll share a quote from Sid Banks from the book or from his book, The Missing Link. And I quote, I do not ask anyone to ignore their past experiences. This would be denial, and denial is not a healthy state of mind. Instead, you'll need a clear understanding of the past. Please realize that the negative feelings and emotions from the past traumatic experiences are no longer valid. They are merely memories, a collection of old, stale thoughts. End of quote. Who really knows why we are having such thoughts anyway? Experts can give possibilities, concepts, and theories. Or people close to us, usually it's the people who don't know us personally, gives explanation why we're having such thoughts or behaving in such ways. But even ourselves, on some occasions, we cannot understand ourselves. So why bother to spend so much time digging? Please don't take them seriously. When thoughts come rushing into our heads, we take them seriously. And I have accounted some reasons earlier on why we take them seriously. Our thoughts and thinking about it are not a proof of reality. Two people watching the same movie inside the same cinema can have totally different realities or experiences based on their own thoughts, thinking, and mood in that moment. What matters more are not the thoughts themselves, but the feelings that accompany them. The feelings are like a compass that signal the quality of our thinking and not about what we are looking at in that moment. Seeing a red car may give off a feeling of amazement or delight to some, but for one person in the room, the sight of the car gave her pain in the chest. It reminded her of the time when she saw her then boyfriend kissing a girl inside the red car they chose together. The red car event took place in the past, but it's not true now. It does not exist. It only becomes alive through the gift of thought. Then it feels so real. When to listen to our thoughts seriously then? Or when to take our thoughts seriously? I don't know with you, but the word serious feels tense to me. Common sense and wisdom tell me that in a tense state, other creative solutions are not as obvious, in contrast with an open, free, and quiet mind. Or as they say, the butterfly has already landed on the tip of your nose, and you fail to notice it because you're too serious about looking for it. Your vision has been distorted. A space like a less noisy mind, or when we are in a higher level of mood or consciousness, means possibilities. Infinite and endless. With light, love, and laughter, Nico, I'll see you again next time. Bye.